So good morning and happy Halloween. We are happy to have you with us for today's Small Business Bootcamp session. My name is Faith Ritchie and I'm Senior Program Manager for Small Business Services, filling in for your usual host, Robert Theobald. If you are new to the boot camp, welcome. But if you are not, you know we always like to give acknowledgement and kudos to our many community partners who, without their assistance, time, and expertise, we would not be able to provide consistent content and education to our small businesses across the state. This is just a small representation of all of the amazing educational resources that the Arizona ecosystem has been able to provide, and I will share with you how you can find additional resources provided through the Small Business Bootcamp. Again, the Small Business Bootcamp is a weekly webinar series designed to help businesses prepare, plan, and grow their small business here in Arizona. It is a free program and it has content library and so much more to offer you. So if you're unable to join us in these live sessions, don't fret. There's opportunities to watch those recordings, review those slide decks, as well as engage with other resources shared by our presenters as part of our content library. Additionally, on top of these webinar programs, there are numerous different programs and opportunities that your business can engage with as part of the Arizona Commerce Authority. These are just a small listing of those programs that I know we'll be sharing the link in the chat box below for you to discover how these programs may apply to your business and how you can possibly engage with them. Additionally, the Arizona Commerce Authority and Small Business Services host the Small Business Checklist. This is a cornerstone program of the Arizona Commerce Authority and assists small business owners and founders identify all the commonly asked questions and answers for permitting licensing across the state. Whether it's local, state, or federal level, the checklist is a great location for you to start and grow here in Arizona. Additionally, some business updates for you. The Arizona Commerce Authority Small Business Service team will be hosting an in-person workshop upcoming November 8th, which is not as far as you may feel it being November 8th. So if you are interested in joining us, the title for this session is Growth Readiness, Being Prepared for Growth in 2024. We encourage you to check out that registration event and hopefully you are able to join us in person November 8th. Of course, we will continue to chug through the rest of the year to provide the content. So our upcoming sessions in November 7th, we will be joined by SBA to talk about their 3 C's: capital, counseling, and contracting. We will then have a discussion of the importance of knowing what your business is worth on November 14th, and we'll take a short break for the Thanksgiving holiday. We're already in holiday season, so now is the time to start preparing for 2024. So just because some stuff's going on, please feel free to register, join us for our Tuesday sessions, review that content library, and truly optimize for success the upcoming year. But let's get to why we are here today, and that's to talk about leveraging this amazing tool provided by APS and Size Up Arizona. So here to introduce our topic and discussion today is Mackenzie Fitzgerald of APS. Good morning, Mackenzie.
Good morning. And first off, wishing everyone a safe and happy Halloween, and go Diamondbacks. I just have to throw that out there. Tough loss last night, but I've got faith we can do this. Big game tonight, so hopefully everyone's going to tune in before or after trick-or-treating. So thank you so much to Faith and Robert and the ACA for the opportunity to be with you this morning, and to each of you for taking the time out of your schedule to learn a little bit more about Size Up and how this free resource can accelerate your business. So as Faith said, I'm Mackenzie Fitzgerald, Economic Development Representative at APS. And APS is constantly striving to learn more about how we can best support our communities and local businesses. So we discovered Size Up a few years back and knew it was something we wanted to invest in, providing a free tool for entrepreneurs and the small businesses that make up the backbone of our economy. As part of APS's commitment to driving local economies, the APS Economic Development Team launched Size Up Arizona. So this business development and business intelligence tool provides small businesses and entrepreneurs with market research that typically only large corporations can afford. So knowing with time, money, and resources at a premium, APS is committed to helping your companies move forward with the tools and information you need to work smarter and more efficiently. So today we're fortunate enough to be joined again by Mario Ubaldi, Director of Customer Success, and Armando Morales, Customer Success Manager of Size Up. So if you joined the last session, they had a great overview, and today they're going to provide some insight into the site's advertising module and how to maximize your business's advertising to target those ideal customer segments, as well as provide some additional analysis on how to best maximize the tool. So thank you again to the ACA and Size Up for the opportunity to highlight this platform. We hope you find it as valuable as we have. And Mario and Armando, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much. I really appreciate that warm welcome, Mackenzie. And Faith, that's a great overview of all of the offerings and things that you guys are doing for businesses in the state of Arizona. Also, I really love both of your backgrounds. I do want to say I kind of want to steal those. I mean, I can't really steal the cactus as much, you know, but because that's localized and everything, but you know, I still love it nonetheless. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now and go to a PowerPoint to give a little bit of an overview of Size Up before we get into the actual live demo. So today, leveraging the business ecosystem, a strategic approach to targeted advertising. Size Up Arizona. So I know that we have some people that were here last time, but we also have some new people. So I wanted to kind of give a little bit of the same overview, but maybe in a slightly different way. So Size Up, what is it? Oh, and before I continue, so in the Q&A chat, I do have my colleague Mario Ubaldi here, who will be answering, who will be monitoring the Q&A. And then once we switch over and he's doing the second half of the demonstration, I will be doing the same. Now we'll go ahead and leave some relevant questions for the very end, but if we can answer them during the presentation or the live demo, we'll be happy to do so. So back to the PowerPoint. Size Up, a business intelligence tool for you. We know that there right now, with the digital age well upon us, there is still a lack of access to data. And that's kind of what Size Up does here. We provide the same big data that big businesses have the ability to leverage, and we collate multiple or hundreds of different sources so that you, a small business or entrepreneur, can make a optimized decision based on big data. It's provided whenever you are available, so 24/7. Well, not that you're available 24/7, but it's provided 24/7 so that it can be available when you are. We've made it simple to use, so it speaks the same language as you. Instead of knowing your NAICS or SIC code, instead of knowing, you know, your 7,330 whatever, instead you can type in something like restaurant or coffee shop or manufacturing, and then it will start to populate with that data and information. Additionally, you can create reports off of our software. So we are a company that is very invested in small businesses and entrepreneurs. So as we monitor the trends. So right here you have the business starts in the US. And one thing I want you guys to take notice of right here, this is March 2020. This is the start of the pandemic, and we thought that was going to be the trend, and it fantastically shot up in the opposite direction here. And as you can see, even when it came down, the amount of business starts in the US The lowest lows for here are still higher than any of the previous highs. Now, the US is a big country, so we go a little bit closer and we look at the West, and we still continue to see the same trend here. And then if we go even further, we can see that even in the state of Arizona, it maintains the same trend of business starts. So that's great. There's a lot of new businesses opening. However, we do want to be wary of the new business failure rate, especially looking at the projections for the first 5 years. So in the first 5 years, it's projected that 50% of businesses that start in their first 5 years will fail. Now, if we look a little bit closer, or look over here and we break down those numbers, we can see that 37.5% of those die due to a natural death. Now, that's when the market has shifted. Everybody's gone on from fax machines and they're using scanners and email. Everybody's moving on from rental DVDs to streaming services. So there's not a lot that we can do for those at this present time. However, if we look at the other numbers, 62.5% of those businesses are failing due to a lack of preparation. And that's where Size Up becomes so powerful. We provide the objective lens of data to make optimized decisions. And before I move on to the next slide, this is not our data here, right here. This is from Entrepreneur magazine and from Investopedia on the business failure rate. So a little bit about the tool itself. We talked a little bit about this earlier. You can search as broad or as deep as you want. Granted, the data is available. So in retail, we can look as broad as restaurants. We can look a little bit more specific in Italian, or we can look even more specifically at pizza restaurants. Now, one more quick example, we can look at, if we're looking at something like manufacturing, we can look at something, we can type in manufacturing, we can type in plastics manufacturing, or we can even type in plastic foams manufacturing. Now, a little bit about the level of data. It starts at the neighborhood or the city level, and we provide the different scales so that you can compare as well your industry to the various scales. And then we have 3 different modules. We covered 2 of those in the last presentation, the My Business module and the competition module. And today we're going to focus heavily on advertising. What's so great about today is that we had 2 sessions to really focus in on the different modules and everything, and we're really able to give you guys a deeper dive. So again, last time we covered the benchmarking or the My Business tool, and you were able to compare your industry to like industries in your geography, look at the different benchmarks, and compare. And then we looked at the competition module. We were able to see your business's ecosystem. Now today, we're looking more specifically, we're going to start looking at the advertising module, and then I'm going to pass it off to my colleague Mario, who is going to show you how you can leverage multiple modules, some that we covered in the previous or last week, so that you can optimize your analysis. And we're going to use some of the real world cases that you gave to us. Specifically, I'm going to use the bakery example for our advertising module. All right, so that does it for the PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to go ahead and jump into my browser. So just quickly, to navigate to this tool, you can simply go to sizeuparizona.com or sizeup.info/Arizona, whichever way is easiest for you, or you can navigate directly from the APS site. All right, jumping into this. So I am a baker or a bakery or a pie. Oops. Give me 1 second. All right. Apologies on that. My screen went blank. Thought I had all the technical difficulties out of the way, but we're moving forward. All right. So let's say I am a cake or a bakery, right? So I start to type in bakery, and I get a whole list of different industries that I can select from. So I'll go ahead and select bakeries, and then let's go ahead and go to Phoenix, Arizona, because we didn't go to Phoenix last time. So we simply click next. We see the 3 different modules that we have access to. And last time we went over the My Business module and the competition module. Today, we're going to go ahead and focus on the advertising module. So we click that, and then here we're able to see all the different zip codes that we're able to advertise in. Now, I am right now a bakery myself, so I might not want to enter a bakery unless I am doing maybe bakery wholesale and I am going to advertise to other bakers. But let's say I'm a bakery that's more like home-based and a little bit on a smaller scale. So maybe I want to advertise to different businesses, to different markets that I can go ahead and get my product out to and maybe into the hands of other consumers as well. So I'm going to go ahead and think of another industry that I typically see, cakes and pies and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and go with grocery stores. So we start to type that in and we can see a whole host of different industries that we can select from. I'm going to go ahead and click on grocery stores here. We're in the Phoenix area, and then we can go ahead and then sort by 6 different types. We can look at total annual revenue. We can look at revenue per capita, underserved markets, average revenue, total employees, and household income. Now, depending on where you're looking to advertise and market yourself, you'll want to sort by one of these particular approaches. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and stay with total annual revenue. And if we look over here at the results, we can see the top 10 results here. And just like on Google, you have different pages where you can continue to see any of the different results here. And as you can see right now, we have about 41 different results that have popped up. Now, I'm a small business, and 41 zip codes might be quite a bit for me to kind of reach out to. So because of that, I think I want to filter a little bit further. Now, before I go to the filters here, I do want to point out that on the map, it is interactive. You can click on any one of these pins and you can get more information on that zip code, specifically on all of the different sorts that we looked at earlier. We can see the population, revenue per capita, average revenue, total employees, and household income. And you can additionally see that here on the results page as well. So going back to the results, we have 41 different zip codes that we can advertise to. Now let's go to this filter so we can maybe filter a little bit further, or if we want to explore a little bit more, we can expand even. So right now we are in the Phoenix area. We are in the West, the desert Southwest, and people drive. That's how they get around, and they're not afraid to go an extra 20 minutes or even drive 45 minutes to a particular location. I myself am based in El Paso, so I do know from one side of town to the other, it is about 45 minutes. And then traffic, I'm going to stop there. But we can expand our search distance to about 15 miles, or I'm sorry, 15 miles. For this example, we can do it for 15 miles. But at any given time, we can expand it all the way nationwide. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because it's going to calculate millions of different data points. And right now, we are doing an example of a bakery, so we're going to keep it much more local. But if we wanted to do nationwide, that would be for anything that you're going to advertise nationwide. So think industries like hotels, motels, niche memorabilia, if you're doing collectibles for a comic book store, things like that. But for bakery, now that we've filtered by total annual revenue, we want to kind of filter down a little bit more. Maybe we want to see where the quality of those dollars are being spent at grocery stores so that we can navigate down that way. So we can filter by 2 different ways: demographic characteristics and industry performance. So if I want to see the industry performance, let's say of these grocery stores in a given zip code, maybe I want to filter by revenue per capita. I want to make sure that the quality of those dollars are being spent by residents in that particular zip code. So here I can either search going down here by putting at most, or from here I can filter by at least. So I want to make it kind of high, kind of worth it, because maybe while I am a smaller business, but maybe I make higher end cakes, maybe like the extravagant ones. So I'm going to put up to at least 1,000 here. And then we see it is filtered. Oops, scrolled too far up. It is filtered down from 41 all the way down to 10 results. So maybe 10 results is still quite a bit. However, I can come over here and I can still explore these search results. And we can see that it is also color coded, with the darker colors, red, being higher intensity or closer to our searches and our filters, the match, and then the lighter or yellow colors being not as much close to our filters as we got. So now we can see which are the best places to market and advertise ourselves based on the filters and the sorts that we've done. And now we can explore even further. So we can see what the total annual revenue is of a given zip code, and then we can match it by the revenue per capita that we're searching for, so that we can see which is the best spot to advertise our cakes and our pies, or whatever it is that we are baking. Now, let's go ahead and go through another example. Let me go ahead and clear these filters so that we can go ahead and look at maybe some of the demographic characteristics. So another place that I might think about looking to advertise in, caterers. Caterers are typically, they are also associated with like event organizers. So that might be an idea to advertise in to get our product out to them as they offer those particular types of services. So I'll start to type in caterers. And then we see that the map will populate. And now we have about 60 different results in this case. Let's go ahead and change up our approach a little bit, or our sort. So let's go ahead and look at maybe household income. So I'm looking for caterers. I imagine I want to look at and I'm looking at the demographics because I'm trying to, target my audience over here. And I'm thinking that the caterers are going to be based near their particular customer base. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same. So I'm going to sort by household income, looking for that higher income for my particular bakery shop. We go ahead and go back to the filters here. We see we still have that search distance about 15 miles. And then now we're going to look at the demographics characteristics. So we look at household income. Let's say we want to put it to a household income that makes at least 75,000. Great. Now we filtered it down to 19 results. Maybe that's still too much. So let's go ahead and look at household expenditures, make sure that they're spending at least that much. Now we filtered it down to 12. Great. Now that we see that there's still quite a bit of zip codes, maybe let's go push the envelope a little bit and maybe look at least 100,000. Oh, that's great. Now we filtered it down to 3 results. That is well within my budget to advertise. So we look at the results here, and then now we can see what the typical, in a particular zip code, what the household income is, or in these particular areas. All right. So let me go ahead and go into one more example before I pass this off. All right. So let me go ahead and clear my filters once again. And another place that I can think of that typically will have some kind of cakes, or that I can advertise in, where I'm going to get a lot of traction with a lot of people, or helpful advertising with business to business, is restaurants. So I'm going to go ahead and do restaurants. And let's say that we're going to do the opposite approach. Maybe we're going to do untapped markets. So let's go ahead and go to underserved markets. So now we're looking at underserved markets, or residents or businesses within the area that might be spending less than average, which may mean that there's an opportunity for potential new business within some of these restaurants. So again, we get a high amount of results. So we want to filter that down. Let's say I've been in business as a bakery for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and I have a helpful amount of data based on some of my sales, and I see a trend there. And I noticed that a lot of my customers, a lot of my repeat customers actually have a bachelor's degree or higher for whatever reason. We know that we see some of these use cases in things like coffee shops, but who knows, maybe it can apply based on my previous sales as a bakery. So we'll go down to a different part of the demographics characteristics. So we see right here, we have bachelor's degree or higher. So let's say we want to filter this to where a zip code has at least 40% or higher bachelor's degree. So now it has filtered down all the way from 63 to 9 results. So now we can go ahead and take a look at that. And now we also see, again, the intensity based on color over here. And now we filtered down and we've sorted by revenue per capita, seeing where most of the untapped markets are. And even with the revenue per capita, or looking at untapped markets, it is still quite high. And we filtered it based on our previous information that our bachelor's degree are typically our repeat and higher amount of customers. So we can see where we might want to advertise in a given restaurant. All right, so I just took you through 3 different examples of being able to use demographic characteristics and industry performance as we're looking through the lens of a bakery in Phoenix, Arizona. You're able to search based on or sort based on 6 different approaches here: total annual revenue, revenue per capita, underserved markets, average revenue, total employees, household incomes, and then a series of different filters as we just talked about. And the last thing I want to point out before I pass this off to Mario is not necessarily specific to any individual module, but applies to all of them. After we've done our analysis here, we can do a PDF and we can generate a report based on all of the inputs and the searches that we just did. So we'll get all of that information for the last results that we just did here with a nice little map here as well. And then last but not least, whichever module is active at the time, there will be an I button that appears. And if you click on it, it'll bring down a video of a minute or less explaining and walking you through exactly what that module does. All right. So that was it for the advertising module. I know right now I don't see any questions in the chat because I'm sure that Mario has been monitoring that. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Mario for the second part of the demonstration.
All right. Thank you, Armando. Really excited. So as you know, we started off with a quick review. We spent about 25 minutes on the concept around Size Up on our last session. And Armando is just taking you through the advertising section. What some of you may have realized is that there's actually a lot of possibility in leveraging one tool to inform another one. So we wanted to take you through some real life use cases. We asked you for suggestions last time. We made a promise to you that we would cover your actual use cases in this. I don't know exactly what's happening, but apparently there are a lot of people starting bakeries in Chandler, Arizona. So that is the one that we're going to use. I think those people are going to have fantastic cakes and holidays. If I was in the Phoenix metro area, I think I'd be heading to Chandler to do my trick-or-treating so I could get some of those amazing cookies. So I'm going to go ahead and just review very quickly kind of how the tool works, just so we can understand, again, context for what's happening, obviously depending on whether you saw yet last time's session or not. As I mentioned, this should be very interactive. So please shoot out your questions. Armando is going to be our air traffic controller right now. and he'll be directing me with your questions or use cases. So the standard thing here that you would do is you would go ahead and look at your retail bakeries. You might put in $1 million just because it's a nice round figure. And we'd actually see that the average retail making is 1.5 million, so on and so forth. Why does this matter? Well, because you might actually not be a retail bakery, you might be selling to a retail bakery. And so understanding not just your business, but the businesses that you're interested working with can help you become a better service provider, a better product provider. And so this works across multiple ones. So I'm using the example of a retail bakery. Let's go ahead and look at the competition tool for retail bakeries. Now you're going to notice you're actually going to see some, Einstein Bagels, Starbucks, things of that nature. That's because we're going to do a deeper dive now into the tool. You can appear, or your business is going to appear in up to 6 different categories. So what we mean by that is, Starbucks does, in fact, has baked goods. My diabetes and insulin level can attest to that, as you can tell. And you can also see bakeries in Walmart, but you also do have specialty bakers as well. And you could then use this type of information, understanding, well, I'm not really interested in perhaps these type of businesses, but I'm a retail bakery. I'm trying to understand who my competition is. So you can see everything from big business to small businesses. It just depends on what you're looking for. The same is true on the customer or supply side. So let's actually walk through this. So let's say that we are looking at customers, and I created something based on some of the other things that I saw. So these were some of the other people that were suggesting things, and they were like recreational leagues, sports leagues, those type of things. Let's say that your bakery makes cookies, cakes, muffins, things of that nature for recreational leagues, right? Bowling leagues, little league, gymnastics ones. So you can actually use the competition tool in customers to create an entire list. We only showed like one last time, but you can actually add multiple industries. So let's start with gymnastics instruction. Let's go ahead and look at baseball. Oops, I started typing too quickly. There's recreational baseball clubs. We could do athletic leagues. So there's athletic organizations. And you can just keep on layering these on as much as you want. So now we're looking at, in our customers, here's Arizona Dynamic Gymnastics, Aspire Kids Sports Center, Gold Medal Gymnastics, USA Youth Fitness Center. So we just added 3 different categories to these lists. And this becomes a prospect list for your bakery because you have a unique value proposition specific to these type of organizations. You have some special, and I've seen this, like it's a screen printing thing that you can do where you can put logos and faces and flags and all those things on cookies and cakes. So it looks just like the actual logo that they put on their uniforms or the other things. So now you've identified all of these different things. Well, that's just part of what you're looking at. You can also look at your supply chain. So of course we can always look at, say, food wholesale. And you notice here we can food brokers, or we can look directly at the products. And one of the things that I want to be very specific about is you can see these are all probably food wholesalers that you're familiar with. And we can go ahead and go to the second page, and we're looking at the Chef's Warehouse and a lot of other places. You are not limited to just your area. So the analysis always starts with an Arizona, but let's say you know that there's, I don't know, some special chile in New Mexico that you can only get from New Mexico. You can go down here and you can actually go ahead and click on these little blue dots here, and you can find out information about that. So don't be afraid to move the map. It's designed to work that way. We tried to make it really simple for you. You move the map, you zoom in, you're going to get the information that you want. Now, maybe food products wholesale is just a little bit too much for you. So maybe you actually want to go to restaurant equipment supplies and wholesale. You can use this to understand your supply chain issues. And again, you're going to see all your classic ones here. We can go to all of these and find their information. We can look at grocery supply wholesalers. you get the idea. But a lot of people, when they think about sourcing, they're like, well, this is what Size Up's really good for. But let's just pretend that you are such a local and organic type of place. Maybe you're actually looking for dairy farms. And then we're going to find out that within the Phoenix area, and you're thinking, oh, there's actually not a lot. We'll find out that there's actually a local dairy company. They've even expanded into Southern California, but they're right here in Phoenix. And so now you're producing locally made cookies for local athletic organizations using local milk. And you can see that they have everything here, including a creamery store. So you actually can leverage their world renowned. I've been here. Again, diabetes, not joking. But you can see there's fantastic places where you can look beyond what you traditionally would think by leveraging the competition tool to identify businesses that you may not have considered. Because coming from Phoenix, you may think, oh, we have dairy farms. They're out towards Tucson or Buckeye or things of that nature. But in fact, there are, as you can tell, some dairy farms or dairy wholesalers in your area. So don't be shy to consider things that you hadn't thought before might be present there, because Size Up can help you discover those things. So now let's talk about, this is again, more like direct to the consumer. Let's talk about how the advertising tool can help inform your use of the My Business tool and vice versa. So let's talk through a different story. Instead of retail bakeries, and I'm going to go ahead and clear off some of these industries that we have. Let's talk about something that is, see, I'm moving so fast, the application can't keep up with me. 1 second. I think I wanted to move to carpenters. There we go. And let's go ahead and let's look at, oh, I'm trying to think. Let's go to Tucson. I think we looked at last time some more rural communities. I shouldn't say rural. Yuma's not rural, but it's definitely not in the center of Arizona. And let's look at advertising. So I'm a carpenter, and I'm looking at like total annual revenue, and I'm trying to figure out where to advertise. Well, this is really interesting because let's say that I have a 5-person carpentry crew. And I'm specifically focused on a finished carpenter. So I'm focused on doing not like the framing of the houses, but I'm focused on like built-ins, closets, cabinets, things of that nature. This is fantastic information, and I could see where people are spending their money on carpentry. But what I may want to do is actually fish where the fish are. So I may want to look at the type of industries that I'm interested in. So I'm going to go to single-family home construction in Tucson, Arizona. I'm going to ignore revenue. I'm going to know year started. I'm going to ignore salary and everything else. So it's helpful to see that the average home builder is $4 million. What I'm interested in is identifying the average size of a single family home construction businesses. I put in 10 because I'm a carpenter. I don't know about single family boutique, home builders. And I can see that the average size is 5. Why does this information matter so much? Because if I'm a carpenter and I'm looking to sell my services not to the D.R. Hortons, KB Homes, Cal Atlantics, Lennars, I need to identify where their smaller single family home builders are. So I'm going to look at advertising the single family house construction business around Tucson. And instead of total avenue revenue, now that I know, right, that the number of total employees is under 10, I can go ahead and select total employees. I'm going to assume that to build a house, we might travel, upwards around 60 miles. And I'm going to end up with 54 zip codes. I don't know about you. Our business doesn't have the ability to advertise significantly in 54 zip codes. But what I can do is by sorting on total employee size, I can then bring this down to 10 people. And now I guarantee not only do I have the budget to advertise in 4 zip codes, I am hyper targeting the very specific single family home builders in these 4 zip codes. Luckily, as I mentioned, I'm in Tucson. So 2 of the 4 are in Tucson that are going to be the size for me, the size for my 5-person carpentry crew. We can overlay this information by actually finding out where those businesses are. Now, as I mentioned, You could, of course, change your location from Tucson to one of those other locations, or you can just, again, zoom out the map and then find out what some of those home builders are in that area. So you can see here's Alpha Builders Design in Inc. Home-based business. It's very plausible that that business that we saw that was in this area is one of these boutique home builders. So not only can you target by region via the advertising tool, the specific businesses that you're trying to target, you can actually go further and identify with the competition tool the specific businesses within those zip codes by comparing the zip code that you're getting here with the same zip codes that you're seeing on the competition tool. So this is just one example of where knowledge about an industry that you sell or buy from can help you use the advertising tool, the My Business tool, and the competition tool to overlay that information to optimize the type of advertising, outreach, customer targeting that you might be looking for. So that was a B2C example, B2B example, business to business, right? A carpenter selling to a home business. We also looked at a B2B example of a retail industry that's using the My Business tool to understand, and the competition tool to understand where their potential customers are, or where they might optimize their advertising or spend based on those specific characteristics of athletic organizations, gymnastics, and other things. I just wanted to pause here and see if we had any other questions. Armando, did we get any in chat or Q&A?
Mario, you're doing such a good job right now. There are none. Either that or
Okay.
They haven't quite formulated the questions yet.
Okay. Well, we had a couple of other questions about some specific industries in our last chat, and I wanted to cover some of that as we go in depth on the tool. So I do want to talk a little bit about how we benchmark in some of these areas that you see as blank on the map. Because some people had questions, oh, I can't find this in my area. And so this is, again, where we can overlay some information. I'm going to go something that should have probably pretty decent coverage. I'm going to go to coffee shops, and we're going to go out to, I think we saw Tombstone was one of the areas that matched. So we're going to go to Tombstone. Perfect. So what you're going to see right now is we went to coffee shops in Tombstone, Arizona. And you're like, my goodness, there's just a whole bunch of gray right there. Why is this? Why am I not getting the data that I need? Well, the answer is very specific. It says not enough data. Not that there isn't data, but not enough data. So one of the things you can zoom out, you can see that Tombstone's on the southern side, and it's less densely populated. And you can see the geography, the actual outlines of the information. It doesn't mean that there's no coffee shops there. It just means that our data scientists, in their wisdom, have said there's not enough to make the information statistically meaningful for you. And so we don't want you to, if you only have one of something, the average of that one thing is that thing. And that may not be a valuable data point. But in areas where we do have enough detail to give you a statistically valid viewpoint on what the average might be, you can see that information by zooming out or zooming in. That doesn't mean that there aren't coffee shops there. As we can see, clearly there are 2 coffee shops in Tombstone that we're aware of, Wyatt's Coffee House and the OK Cafe. As I said, there are definitely coffee shops there. It just means that there's not enough where we would want to provide you with what we consider statistically relevant data. So even again, when we're looking at these tools, it doesn't mean that there's no data. It means that you might want to kind of piece out the significance of that by looking at the competition tool to look at the individual businesses that would lead you to looking at those benchmarks. So, and then again, we were looking at underserved areas. We can understand perhaps why that area doesn't have that many coffee shops. So here we're looking at coffee shops in Tombstone, Arizona. We have some pretty deep filters on it, most 10 people. And that's actually interesting. Let's go ahead and look at coffee shops with number of employees. And you can see in Cochise County, at least 14 people. So if we filtered as it was right now under total employees, that's why we're getting so few businesses are suggested within that zip code, it's because the average coffee shop is over 14 and the filters are there. So I do want to point out this handy dandy feature, which is clear filters. So if you're running through new scenarios and you're like, I adjusted 8 filters and now I have to readjust them all. No, you don't. We're going to make it really simple. You click clear filters and now look at all of the hits that you're getting. But what you may want to figure out is what's happening. So we're looking at the coffee shop industry. I think it's a little far to go, 50 miles or something for coffee. But I think this is more reasonable. I just chose a random, but maybe it's income levels. You can say, oh, I'm trying to compete with these gourmet coffee shops. And so then look at this. Now we've identified the 3 zip codes, right? Tombstone, Bisbee, and Pierce, where there are people who are going to be more likely to patronize our $2, right, a cup coffee shop as opposed to our $5 a cup organically grown, locally roasted coffee shops. Conversely, you can now adjust for over 50,000, and you're going to see that there's a different set of zip codes that match that unique business criteria. And you can overlay that information based on per capita household incomes. So here's what I mean by that. So you're looking right now at Sierra Vista, Hereford, Fort Huachuca, and please correct me if I'm wrong because I like knowing the names of places that I'm looking at. So in the chat, we'll look for it. Let's go ahead and go back to my business tool. We're still in Tombstone, Arizona. And let's look at revenue per capita, right? And so we can see where that data then kind of fits in, right? So revenue, so this is revenue, total revenue, right? Which we can see is actually fairly low in Cochise. Not low, but I should say lower. So we're in the 9.5 to 15 million in terms of total revenue by capita. I'm sorry, by county. And so what we understand is, okay, there's less overall spending here than maybe in Maricopa or over so you get the near Tucson. So there's less overall spending, but it's a less densely populated area. However, when we compare that to revenue per capita, you can actually see that it's higher per household, right? Per person spending within the county. So while overall spending may be lower, it's less densely populated, but the people who are in there, maybe because it is less densely populated, they need a little bit more caffeine to drive a little bit farther. The spending per capita is better. So the information that you can then find here, again, can kind of cross-reference the experience that you're getting in terms of the advertising. So we can look at revenue per capita. And now we're sorting. Remember, we were looking at this, we're going, hey, we went from $2 cups of coffee or 99-cent cups of coffee to now our new use case is these are going to be really expensive coffee. These are people who have their vacation homes out here and they want to spend $5 on fire roasted organic coffee grown in the foothills of Panama. And now we can know very specifically, if you look at the revenue per capita, this is where you want to go. This is where you would want to target your marketing. And so you can use the tool and cross-reference the data on the benchmarking or My Business tool to help inform where you even narrow down. So you narrow down from 55 zip codes to 4, and now you know that this is the zip code that you want to advertise in. People are spending more on coffee in that zip code than any of the other 3. Practically, combining the bottom 2, Hereford is even more than that. So lots of different ways to compare data from one tab to another to help you inform how you optimize your advertising with Size Up Arizona. So as a quick review, as we move on to the Q&A section in the last 10 minutes, the My Business tool allows you to understand objectively how your business, or now you know, a business that you're interested in buying from or selling to is performing. The competition tool allows you to understand the entire ecosystem that you're operating under. So you can literally see your competitors, your supply chain, and prospective customers or existing customers to understand how you can best service them. The advertising tool helps you not understand just where to advertise, but also where to market your products or services or possibly even source them. right? If you're looking for certain types of densities. And by comparing all of those, hitting the PDF export, you can take this information and put it into Excel, a business loan application, a prospectus, or you can just work with your partner. If you're not a solopreneur, but you're actually doing things the old-fashioned way, where you have two partners putting their heads together to come up with how to run a business, you guys can look at those numbers together using whatever business planning software or anything else you want. So hopefully that was a great overview, not just of the tool, but of the differences in the applications or the application modules that can help inform the other modules to give you the information that you need to succeed. And without any further delays, I think we should get to the Q&A.
Fantastic. Thank
Armando,
you so
did I miss
much.
anything?
Oh,
Apologies, I was on mute.
I guess not.
No. At the present time, I guess we were able to, since this is the second session, maybe we're able to answer the ones now and the ones before.
Well, I'm really glad, and I think we should turn this back over to Faith and Mackenzie for any closing remarks then.
fantastic. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Armando. And thank you so much, Mackenzie and APS, for providing this amazing tool. I hope they didn't spook you too much on this Halloween session. This is a phenomenal opportunity available to entrepreneurs across the state. And Armando and Mario, thank you again for letting us do a two-part deep dive into this opportunity. So if there are no other questions, we can go ahead and wrap up today's session. Of course, a friendly reminder that session 1 and 2 of this Size Up demonstration will be available on our content library. So if you want to go back and review some of those filters, some of those how-tos and can-dos, we invite you to check out those recordings available as part of our content library. But until then, we will be back here next Tuesday at 9 a.m. And again, we appreciate the time and expertise you all shared with us today on this very spooky Halloween session. All right, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you again, Mario, Armando, and Mackenzie, and we will be back here next Tuesday at 9. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Happy Halloween, happy All Saints Day, and Dia de los Muertos for everyone. Bye-bye.